Panasonic just released their newest generation of the 100-400mm f4 to 6.3 Leica lens. This lens is overall exactly what I'd expect. Enough, but not a lot. So this should be a pretty short review. Let's hop into it. Huge thanks to Panasonic for sending me over the gear to try out, and as usual, I wasn't paid by them for this review. They have no say in how this turns out, and this isn't my gear to keep. When paired with the Panasonic's brand new G9 II, this lens shows zero noticeable slowdown when it comes to autofocus speed. It's lightning fast and snappy. Overall, lenses have just gotten so insanely quick with focus speed, I don't think it's really much of a factor anymore when it comes to native lenses, and I debate even mentioning it in my reviews now. Paired with the new G9 II, I think it may have the best new autofocus in the wildlife photography genre. So if you're interested in hearing more on that, I'd recommend checking out the review I just released on the new Panasonic G9 II today. This lens feels very well built for an MFT lens, and personally, I like the way it feels in my hands a lot and feels almost identical to the Olympus 300mm f4 that I liked. It feels like a solid metal construction and doesn't feel plasticky. It has a sliding lens hood that has an additional lens hood extension that you can screw on and off. And I like this functionality quite a lot, rather than the twist-on lens hoods that are becoming outdated on super telephoto lenses. This lens also has a twisting lock function that works okay, but I can't say it's my favorite as opposed to a switch, but it gets the job done. The lens zoom ring works well along with the manual focus ring, and so no sacrifice was made there. The lens foot isn't Arca Swiss or any other type of mount compatible, however, so if I bought this lens, I'd definitely be getting a replacement foot, especially due to the fact that the grip isn't very deep on it, which makes me feel less comfortable running around with it. Overall, when it comes to build, I can't complain about it really much at all, with the exception of the lens foot. Now, before we get into the real important part of this lens with image quality, I want to quickly mention image stabilization. I didn't get any hard specifications from Panasonic on how stabilized this lens is yet, but I can say this. Paired with the new G9 II, it was by far the most impressive stabilization I've ever used for wildlife photography. As I mentioned in that review, with this combo, I think it almost completely destroys the need for a tripod in wildlife photography, except for very few niche cases, and I was incredibly impressed. So while I can't speak much to the individual stabilization of this lens, in the combo, it worked like a charm. So now let's talk about the most important part, image quality. I feel conflicted because my results just felt, well, let's say confusing. The lens definitely didn't feel like the sharpest lens that I've ever tested, but it also definitely wasn't the worst. At 400mm, where you would expect to use it most, it's not quite as sharp as the Olympus 125-400 that I tested previously. However, it's also less than 25% the price, which means it's hard to even compare the two in the same category. I haven't tested enough other mid-budget super telephoto lenses in the MFT realm, so it's hard for me to make a comparison there. Here's the good news though. Firstly, the image sharpness was amazingly consistent between center and corner frame, and there wasn't much fall off in sharpness as you'd expect near the edges. Also, I was pleased to see that at its lowest f-stop of 6.3, the lens seemed to be nearly just as sharp as when you stopped up higher, so you can actually utilize the lowest f-stop number with no regrets. There was also almost no chromatic aberration either, which was great for a lens of this price range. It's hard to sum up this lens, but in short, I'd say that this lens is a solid, standard purchase. But it definitely won't make any splashes into the high-end budget or professional level photographers. It's consistent, performs exactly as expected, and is possibly the best MFT option in the budget range. However, it falls short of OM System's best super telephoto lenses in terms of sharpness and even more importantly, minimum aperture. So I think that this lens is really made for the bulk of MFT shooters that exist. Most photographers I know that choose MFT do so due to the fact of either weight or budgetary constraints, and this lens checks both those boxes. It's nice while still being relatively affordable. It's light and very portable as you would expect with Micro Four Thirds, and combined with the Panasonic G9 II, I think this is a solid combo for mid-budget wildlife photographers. And really, the G9 II is actually the star of this combo setup that I think will attract many people to buy this lens to pair it with. If you want to see more reviews like this, I'd be honored if you subscribe to the channel below. And if you want to check out the review that I just released today on the brand new Panasonic G9 II that blows Panasonic's old MFT line right out of the water, check out this video here in the end screen.